So, let me tell you a little of my life story to get to know me. When I was young, I started to think that I was crazy. And I was afraid of anyone finding out. I imagined, like, getting locked up and stuff. Like someone coming, putting me in a straitjacket and hauled off to the padded room and such. Um, these different things that I noticed about myself that were, like, different than other people, like, I could tell I was different than other people. I thought that that's what I added it up to. I thought it meant it was because I was crazy. That's why I seemed so different. Some people don't conceive of it in the same way, I guess. Like, some people would think of it as being an outsider or an alien, like, especially with autism. So when I finally realized that maybe I'm actually autistic, and that came together with this idea of, like, maybe there's not actually something wrong with me. Maybe it's not something bad. Maybe I'm just different. And that was such a weight lifted off of me. Like, it felt so good to think, like, oh, maybe I'm not actually bad. And sometimes when I've heard, like, I've been listening to other autistic people, like other autistic creators on YouTube, and, like, especially Orion Kelly, I've heard him say about feeling like a bad person. And it's so hard to hear someone else say that and think, like, no, you're not. Like, right away it gets you on the defensive. You're like, no. Like, how could you think that about yourself? It's hard to hear people thinking downward to themselves, but, I mean, it's very common, too. Very many people look down on themselves, like, quite severely. I definitely am one. But to think the things that were going on with you are, because you're just a bad person. Born to suffer. That's what he said. Yeah. It's just like, what? That's such a dark view. But I guess I also have such dark views in some ways too. Like, certain traumas and, like, the way that I see relationships can be in a very dark way. Like, I can see it as a fight for dominance kind of thing, or a ridiculous, like, show of dominance type of thing. I don't know. Power dynamics and optics. Like, how does it look in front of everyone? How does it look in front of the children? So many complicated issues. Like, for a long time I thought about things like schizophrenia or something really serious like that with hallucinations. I had hallucinations at one time. And then they thought maybe I had bipolar too. They thought maybe I had hypomania, I guess. I think it was mostly that they were worried about mood swings. That's what they were trying to kind of figure out there. Like, me and my sister, I think both had said that we wanted to talk to a therapist, and my mom had taken us there. Which, now that I'm older, I realize is a bit of a... Like, we were actually lucky that happened. Because maybe some parents just totally wouldn't do that. Because my husband's parents did not. Like, he probably should have received help, and they didn't want to offer it to him. Probably because they were afraid of getting in trouble. Which they very well could have. Depending what the children had said. I remember it seeming so crazy with my dad, him being like, I don't want you telling anyone things that happen. And it's like, then don't do it. If you don't want someone to tell someone about it, like, what if you just didn't do it then, if that's how embarrassed you were about it? Like, if you thought it was such a big deal, people finding out, maybe you just shouldn't do it then, so no one would be able to tell anyone that you did. But anyway, yeah, I thought, like, maybe I had bipolar or something like that, borderline. Like, once I saw Girl Interrupted, I thought about borderline. And now that's the one that's been actually spoken to me about, and ADHD, which, now that I realize, it just makes so much sense. Like, my memory is not a thing. It's very not a thing. But then in some ways I can be so, like, I know everything about that. Like, especially characters' names, I will really remember that. Like, from a story, things from a story, oh yeah, I'm remembering it. Quoting lines, characters' names. It's stupid how people make stories seem like they're not that important, because that is so wrong. It is important. It's extremely important. A story can convey so much, and also it's so, like, You could fill it with emotion and stuff so that it's more memorable, like, because of the story. The story is a tool. It's great. I think you need to see the wonder in a fairy tale. It's important. It does matter. I do believe in fairies.